And we are live. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is your Right Geek, honorary Man King, and leader of the Awkward Cough Squad, here with number one Marmaduke fan to discuss some Iron Man comics. Number one Marmaduke fan, how are you today?
Doing all right. Happy Easter, early everybody. I can't think of any
Yes,
better
happy
way to
early
spend
Easter.
Easter than discussing Christopher Cantwell's weird religious musings, right?
Yes, weird religious musings is a good way to define Iron Man number 7. Yeah. Um, Speaking of which, that's actually where we're going to start, is with Iron Man number 7. So Iron Man number 7 kicks off with the Tony and his kind of D-lister team on the spaceship, one of Tony's spaceships. They're going after Korvac to try to prevent him from getting a hold of Galactus' ship. And we start with this conversation between Rhodey and Tony, in which they're still kind of modifying their armor to sort of prepare for what they assume is going to be another conflict with Korvac. And Tony is basically jacking his armor so that he can punch to 40,000 newtons, it says. And Rhodey observes that... All right, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I like the vibe that Rhodey trusts Iron Man, but he's clearly not sure if Iron Man has got this or if Iron Man knows what he's doing. It's like, I love you, buddy, but I ain't so sure about this one, Chief.
Yeah, that this is a scene that I actually liked for that reason. The reason why he's not the reason why he's not sure of it is that he says here, if you hit a surface that doesn't give, the punch will explode your heart. So Rhodey's concerned about Tony's well-being. He feels that that if this doesn't work out, that Tony is basically courting death here with this plan to just knock him out with this giant punch. So yeah, so this is good. This is fully in character. It shows their long time relationship as buddies, and yeah, the line where he says, the line you're talking about, you're gonna get yourself killed. Tony, I trust you like a brother, but that's about all you're riding on right now. He's like, yeah, I really don't, I don't think you've got this, but I am going to try to trust you because I know you and I love you and you're basically my bro.
So basically like, yeah, all I've got right now is your trust. We're probably screwed.
We're probably screwed, but he's basically acting on desperation at this point. Which, you know, I have commented in previous videos that it's a bit of a shame that Cantwell hasn't utilized the aspect of Tony that is more of the strategic thinker or the planner or the inventor, because going up against an enemy that seems so all-powerful and so likely to result in Tony's death would seem to call for something a little more strategic and a little more intelligent than just coming at him with brute force. But that being said, this is in fact a good scene between these two characters. So I did like that. And then we get to Cantwell's weird philosophical musings on God and religion. So, number one Marmaduke fan, I know you had some things you wanted to say about such weird musings.
I guess I feel like the way Marvel normally handles religion, it's sort of like they handle it by not trying to think too much about it. Like the Christian God exists in the Marvel universe, but also the Norse gods exist in the Marvel universe. And if you ever have someone say like, "Hey, was Jesus a mutant?" It's like, no, that's stupid. Don't even wonder about that. You deal with the problem by just like by quietly ignoring the problem, because I think it's a little bit too much of a stretch for people's suspension of disbelief. So all these characters who've seen gods and seen deities and seen hell are having a little debate about, well, what is God? Is God the God, or is God one of these like godlike supervillains that we
know
fight?
about? Yeah.
And it just kind of gets weird, right? Like, why is like there are people in real life who are atheists, right? So you could write Scarlet Spider as an atheist and make that work. But why is he an atheist in this universe, seeing the things? Like, why do they debate so much about whether supervillains they fought with superpowers would technically be a deity or not, right? It comes a little bit out of left field. And I feel like it's coming from Cantwell wanting to say something about religion without being sure what he wants to say about religion. Like he wants, I get the feeling like he wants to say there's something more than just science and atoms in the universe, which I agree with, but it's sort of like he's not sure if he wants to say anything or not. And so it kind of ends up with Gargoyle saying, well, we devote our atoms to creating balance in the universe, right? So it's like he's trying to combine materialism with spiritualism. I think Frogman says, oh, what a mic drop. Well, no, something isn't a mic drop because you say, what a mic drop moment. Mic drop instantly became cringe. The second that became a meme, it was already cringe.
Yeah. And I also think that this whole conversation, what is God? If I felt like that in this issue, it kind of slowed down the story quite a bit. That these musings, while interesting, I don't know how much they actually provided to the story in question.
If I were doing it, I would have someone like, say, a Nightcrawler. You're right. So Nightcrawler brings a Catholic perspective. Let Scarlet Spider have the atheist perspective, and let him have it out, right? Because then it's like, oh yeah, I can follow the logic and the back and forth. But here it's a little bit more like, oh, well, I feel this. Well, you feel that, but I feel this. It doesn't feel like it has a point, and you're just kind of like waiting for the fight to get here.
Right. Right. So so we're missing someone that actually has the, like you said, the Nightcrawler or the Matt Murdock who actually believes in the Christian God to some extent, like to come in and say, hey, this is what I think.
And he's used Christian symbolism. Like, why not? This would be the perfect storyline to bring in one of those kinds of characters, Missed opportunity.
Right, exactly. Missed opportunity. Okay, so we have this conversation, which did not seem to add much to the plot, and then we get to Tony talking to Patsy here, and Patsy is talking about what happened the last time she kind of psychically connected to Korvac. He's really in your head. And they decide that hey, we can actually use this to our advantage, possibly by reaching out to him, by distracting him, right?
Try to get him to tell us what his evil plan is, which is great. That's some great comic stuff.
Yeah. I wasn't planning on ambushing him. That means he'll be ready. So will I. We have that. Making out with a safety deposit box. Yeah. That was okay, I guess. So then they come to this decision that, hey, he's been reaching out to you. Why don't we use that link to reach out to him? And yes, as you say, describe the evil plan. Get the villain monologuing in classic comic book style, right?
I also kind of like how I've seen evil villain plans like this. Korvac basically wants universal unity. He wants all life subsumed into one single life force, right? So it's almost more like a Nirvana or I don't know, some kind of like mystical gnosis where we'll all be subsumed together. So we won't be fighting anymore because there won't be individuality. And there's kind of like this,
right.
I don't know, maybe from a storytelling perspective, it's kind of neat that just Tony just doesn't, he's just not impressed by the evil plan because there's all of this like beautiful buildup showing how majestic and mystical it's going to be. And he's like, I'd fire you if you propose this project to me. So it's a great moment of Tony being caustic and very cocksure of himself in the of a megalomaniacal god complex villain. So I enjoyed that whole setup.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
also, do you know anything
we
about
have here
Hellcat's past? They talk about like Hellcat having like a psychic past. So I'm guessing that's just alluding to some point in the comics history I don't know about.
Yeah, and I think she's been in hell before too. You were talking in the pre-show about the Scarlet Spider being in hell, and and yet he's still an atheist. Well, I think Patsy had her time in hell as well. So yeah. Yeah, so we have Korvac monologuing about his scheme to basically subsume everything into this collective aggregate that only knows peace and calm. Tony says, show me what this is. All entropy will be reversed. Sameness, oneness, unity, no hate, fear, war, none of the ancient evils. And then we have like these basically crystalline entities here. What are those things? Living extensions of the aggregate, flawless in every conceit. Is this one example of new life forms? No, this is all life itself and its new conception across the universe. And Tony says, so it's entirely homogeneous, limited only to the singular type of existence. No freedom, no flair, no deviation, not even color. Just nothing, things grazing on nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all clean and perfect and rational. And Tony observes that it does not allow for any particularity. It doesn't allow for any individualism. Yeah.
The oneness versus the many.
So, yeah, exactly. This sucks, says Patsy. This is it. This is worth death and murder. So we all get to be crystals eating crystals. Yeah. So it is good to see Tony being basically unimpressed with this vision. Big K, I mean to crap in your wizard hat. For the aggregate, the glass creatures, this is all about you. It's obviously cringingly about you. It's a vanity project. And if you worked for me, I'd fire your ass. Yeah. So, yeah, this is some good stuff right here. But then, this is where things get a little bit weird. Because then, Cantwell decides to yeet Tony out of the story.
With no setup at all. Like, I had to go back. I had to go back and reread.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, like, during the pre-show, Marmaduke had to go back and read it again because he wasn't sure if Korvac was the one who sent Tony away or if it was something else. But Korvac saying, "Oh, I see, you coward," suggests that Korvac thinks Tony yeeted himself. So Korvac is not involved with this at all. There's something else going on. But I question the decision to yeet Tony out of the story when the story's not even done. So now Patsy's alone with Korvac
as an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to why we would pull Tony out of the story. So yeah, it does feel very much like an ass pull. And then this is in the end they realize that Tony's not here.
This heaven, so I'll be interested to see what she says about it after she's experienced it. Will she start to like have sympathy for Korvac's maniacal, godlike vision? of course, she's going to be more traumatized by it. So a lot of like threads that are being built up that I actually do want to see pay off. I feel like Cantwell is good at having his characters have, build up and drive and kind of like moving his characters forward. I feel like his weakness is just sort of meandering a bit and bringing up a few like, oh, what about God? Well, yeah, okay. What about God? What about him? What are you going to do with that in the story?
What are you going to do with that information? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Warzard says that Patsy dated Son of Satan. Okay, thanks for filling us in on that. I am not an expert on Patsy Walker. I don't claim to be one, so I was unaware of that storyline. I did know that she was in hell at some point. She used to be a
romance comics character. She would be on like Archie Comics books, and they decided to bring her into the superhero side of things.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have basically Tony's team without Tony facing down this dogfight in outer space. And then, meanwhile, Tony gets zapped to this unknown location. I don't even know what this system is, let alone planet or galaxy. Is this even reality? Hey, maybe I'm dead again. Great. And he runs into some sort of colony patrol. So again, it's like, where are you going with this? Because you have
is he making up?
We're starting to build up.
He has good knowledge of the Marvel universe. I just feel like he ought to guide us a little bit more. So if like the point is, hey, I brought back these weird space guys from the 80s, like we ought to know what that is. We ought to know who they are so that we can feel the impact. Like if you like, I don't know if these are brand new characters or if he's found some obscure space pirates that you might know if you read Guardians of the Galaxy or something.
Yeah.
It helps to guide the newbie or guide just like the person who doesn't know as much about the space side of the Marvel universe so that we can feel the impact a little bit more. But it seems like he's met up with some cool team of Canadians who are going to participate in the adventure now all of a sudden.
Yeah. Although that could just be a joke on Cantwell's part.
Right.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's still like, oh, why are you now veering off onto this new threat when you are just about to hit the climax of the old thread? It seems a little bit of a strange choice. And I do think that it kind of violates one of the major rules of comic book writing to yeet your title character out of the climax of your first story, because one of the major rules of comic book writing, in my opinion, is whoever your title character is, he has to be the one that is central to the boss fight, basically.
Yeah.
Like, so if you yeet him out of the boss fight so that he's not there, but this is supposed to be an Iron Man comic. Iron Man is supposed to be the one who defeats the villain, right? So I have very strong concerns about what's going to happen in issue 8. That basically this comic that is entitled Iron Man and is supposed to be about Iron Man is going to veer off and become a Patsy Walker comic, which to which I say, if you want to write a Patsy Walker comic, that's what you should have pitched.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of trying to warp the Iron Man comic into some other comic that it's not supposed to be. But that's my thoughts on issue 7.
It feels like we had a weak start and we've been kind of like enjoying it, and it feels like it's building up to something, but I don't trust the writer yet. So I'm still kind of waiting to see if he lands the plane. So this was a turbulence issue. It's the turbulence issue before I find out if we crash or if we stick the landing.
Yeah, exactly. Editor's notes needed, says Warzard. yeah, if these guys that Tony has run into are a part of Space Marvel, that those of us who are more kind of locked into the Earthbound Avengers type heroes, we might need to know who these people are. It'd be good to have a little note saying, "Hey, here's who these guys are. You can read about them in these issues." Um, yeah, that would be very helpful. So we get editor's notes about odd religious terms, but we don't get editor's notes about where characters come from. So the editor department, not exactly doing their job. Oh, and it looks like Marmaduke fan has lost his connection, so we're just going to wait a few minutes while he signs back in. Warzord, our viewer, do you have any comments or questions that you would like to offer while we wait for Marmaduke fan to restore his connection? Okay, let's exit out of here. Leave. Oh, there he is again.
We're back. Internet
Let's pop
catastrophe
him back
averted.
in.
Okay. I can hear you.
Hello,
Can you hear me okay?
me, Marmaduke? We're back. Yay. Yay. Yeah, I can hear you too. We're back. Catastrophe averted. Okay. Now we're going to move on to our retro comics.
Tales
We'll
of
have
Suspense.
lots of fun things to say. Tales of Suspense. Now, we're just going to focus on the Iron Man comics, although the comics we're looking at today also, the Tales of Suspense issues we're looking at today also had Captain America stories, because starting with issue 59, they had a Captain America story and they had an Iron Man story. For the rest of basically the Tales of Suspense run, they were sharing the magazine together. So, and you can see that
Captain Iron Man with the original Battle Bros for Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the issue prior to 59, 58, it was them being Battle Bros. Basically, in the prior issue to this one, the art is at least passable. Yeah. So, in the issue prior to this one, we had one of those Marvel misunderstandings in which the Changeling pretends to be Captain America and misleads Iron Man into thinking that the Captain America that's at Avengers Mansion is a fake Captain America. So he smashes into Avengers Mansion and gets in this big fight with the real Captain America, who he thinks is the fake one. And and then there's this whole fight that eventually works itself out. And then at the end of it, Tony's like, "Man, I was an idiot. I should have realized that I was being played." Um, and that was kind of Cap's introduction to this magazine. And then from this point on, they let them both have stories in the magazine. So
nice. I'm trying a different microphone. Is this better for the roboting issue?
I can hear you pretty well.
Cool. It's also kind of neat how quickly a character would take over one of these old comics. Like they would have a lot of titles like Tales of Suspense or Tales to Astonish. And once they had a hit character, that it would kind of become like, it was, at this point, it was basically the Iron Man comic or the Iron Man and Captain America comic.
Yeah.
Like they had a phase before they got Iron Man #1 to kind of like build up their popularity. I almost wonder if, I don't know, like if anthology comics could make a comeback, then you could like float out 30 ideas until you find like the one idea that sells a lot, you know?
Yeah, I think maybe that's the problem with anthology comics that are coming out today, is that the anthology comics are dealing with the established characters, like the one that recently came out, Superman Red and Blue, or Blue and Red. I forget which order the title goes, but I read that. But it's about Superman. Well, Superman doesn't need an anthology to build up his popularity. He's already popular and has his own, and has two mags devoted to him. So, and same with the Batman Black and White and Batman Urban Legends. Although Batman Urban Legends has some good stuff in there, but at the same time, like, you're doing an anthology with an established character. Maybe, as you say, what we should do is go back to what the retro anthologies did, which is, this is the space where we float new ideas. We throw all these spaghetti noodles against the wall and see what sticks, and then whatever sticks then branches off into their own magazines, right?
The Walmart comics do a pretty good job of this, because they mix in they'll have like a couple old comics, they'll have a couple new comics, and maybe they'll have like one weird thing that they mix in. Yeah, like put Batman on the front to sell it to kids who like Batman, right? But it's your big chance to kind of like build up the less famous characters. Just try something a little off the wall. I've fallen in love with the Walmart style of doing this. I guess Marvel and DC just decided they were going to screw over the poor local comic book shops, because you can get a much better deal on in terms of bang for your buck for a Walmart comic now.
Yeah, I'm sad because the Walmart near me doesn't seem to have the Walmart Marvel and DC comics. I keep looking for them, and I never find them. I'm sad.
It might be the nerds grabbing them up, but I think that once it gets past issue 1, like the speculator nerds stop caring as much. So it's like, oh, you'll never get the issue 1, but there will be like 6 copies of issues 2 and 3 and 4.
Yeah. I have found in Walmarts near me the Allegiance Arts end cap, but I have not found any of the other comics.
Okay, I found it next to like the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It's like they have a completely different mentality, where Allegiance Arts is a book, so it goes in the book section, and DC and Marvel are collectibles, so it goes next to the Pokemon cards or something.
Well, okay, so maybe next time I'll look near the Pokemon cards and see if I can find them. All right. Anyway, so Tales of Suspense number 59, the Iron Man story. Is Iron Man battling the Black Knight. And I love the kind of promotional text here. The one thing I love about these retro comics is they don't back away from trying to sell the comic. So here, never has the Black Knight been so powerful, so seemingly unbeatable. Never have you seen such action. Never has an Iron Man epic tugged at your heartstrings the way this one will. Never has a Stan Lee script or Don Heck artwork been greater. So they're always talking up their stuff. We know you're gonna like this. Copy. This is awesome. It's the best thing ever. Selling the comic, yeah. And so we start with the Black Knight.
He has a gun in his bag in jail to let him escape.
Yeah. Yep, of course.
No one noticed.
No one noticed. So he escapes from jail. Oh, and then we get to the Avengers, who are getting ready for a charity benefit. And the men are all waiting and pouting because Janet, of course, has to frou-frou like a woman. And so we have Captain America.
They all act like females.
And and Marm tweeted on Twitter, laughs in sandwich when he saw that. So just a little bit of casual sexism there with our retro comic, but we're ready to go, but the Wasp has decided to change her makeup.
And they do it again, like Giant Man, after she's done, and she says, all right, boys, let's go. Giant Man says, typical of a woman, you act like you were waiting for us.
Exactly. Just like a woman. You made it sound as though you've been waiting for us. Yeah. And they shrink down to fly in Thor's hair here. Meanwhile, Tony has been left behind because they decide that someone needs to watch for alerts while everyone else is out partying. So Iron Man has decided to take this responsibility this time around. But then he says, oh no, my factory's alarm siren is going off, so now I have to go and investigate that. So the Black Knight, who has just escaped from jail, is attacking Stark's factory because he knows that that Iron Man works for Tony Stark. Yeah. And what happens is when Tony walks in to deal with this situation, he has a little heart trouble and collapses. And of course, Pepper and Happy want to call the doctor because that's the logical thing you do when your boss just collapses right in front of you. But then Tony says, no, don't. It's nothing. Leave me alone.
I'll rub some dirt
And then
in it.
he thinks, I can't. Yeah, I'll rub some dirt in it. I can't tell them that my protective chest device isn't functioning properly. They might guess I'm really Iron Man. But if I don't recharge soon, it'll be curtains. Just leave me alone. I'll rub some dirt in it. I'll just rest. And the Pepper and Happy, being the devoted employees that they are, just refuse to leave him alone. Pepper runs to call the doctor. You've got to stop Pepper. And Happy's like, don't listen to him. He must be delirious. So they're really, really determined to get Tony a doctor, and this is causing problems for Tony because he can't slip away. My secret will be exposed. Don't call the doctor. And he's starting to black out. And that's when the Black Knight shows up, which gives Tony the distraction he needs to get away. Thank goodness for Tony.
I like how he comes close to death before facing the villain.
Yeah.
Like if Black Knight didn't show up, Tony Stark nearly died today anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. So when the Black Knight shows up, he slips away and locks himself in his office. Oops. So he plugs in his charger. Oh, thank God. And then the life-giving electrical current brings the valiant Avenger back from the brink of death, not a second too soon. And yeah, it is great that all of this happens. All of this happens even before he's actually fought the villain. So it just goes to show that you can create drama with an Iron Man comic without a villain, even. As long as you use the frailties that you have at your disposal. And of course, he's locked himself in. So now Happy and Pepper are like, oh no, he's locked himself in, and he was ill, and he won't let us in. Oh no, what are we going to do?
His office is reinforced with steel battle plate.
Yeah. And they're like, wait, why would that be? Which it just, I love that too, because it's like, wait, why would he reinforce his office door like that? What's going on here? Honestly, like in these early comics, I always wonder why people didn't figure it out sooner who Tony really was, because his excuses a lot of times would be really, really lame. He's like the worst he's the worst liar in the world every time he has to cover up for his Iron Man activities. So it always makes you wonder, how come no one figures out that he's this guy?
Peter and Superman at least have what a weak little dweeb. That guy could never be a superhero thing. Like Tony's a pretty Chad guy in his normal life too.
Yeah. So it's like, why wouldn't they figure that out? It makes me think like even as late as the Demon in a Bottle arc in 1979, there's a scene in that where in which Tony goes to Captain America to get some combat training because, for reasons that will be detailed when we actually cover that storyline, he does not have his armor, so he has to figure out some other way to defend himself. So he goes to Captain America to get that sort of fighting training, and
Nice.
during that sort of sparring session, at one point Captain America observes, you're pretty fit for a desk jockey. And Tony says, I play a lot of tennis, or something like that, something really lame like that. It's like, why didn't Cap figure out then that there's something strange? Tony might not be the guy he says he is. Like, but yeah. So finally we get to the fight with the Black Knight here. Iron Man at last. And so they have their fight.
It's a pretty good fight in the terms of, like, there's a lot of back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah.
Black Knight holds his own.
Black Knight holds his own.
Tony holds his own. I like the bit that Iron Man has to use the element of surprise, and his plan is to grab the horse's hooves, which is like, oh yeah. That kind of makes sense. I get
it. We shear off a tower. Oh no, the tower is collapsing. Run. So Iron Man has to stop to catch this tower to protect some of his workmen. As Tony Stark always says, good workmen are hard to find. Meanwhile, while this fight is going on, Pepper and Happy are still trying to get into Tony's office. And this leads to, hey, look at that. This tempered steel hatchet can't even put a dent in the door. It sounds nutty, but the boss has battleship steel plates in this office door of his. I wonder why. The whole blamed wall is solid steel. What will we do? So we got this, epic fight going on outside, and meanwhile, Happy decides that he's going to climb out the window and see if he can get into Tony's office through the window, and that exposes him to the Black Knight's interest here. So the Black Knight captures him, basically.
Also, kind of a nice theme of the supporting cast, being really passionate and loyal friends to Tony, but because they don't know the secret, they're ironically making things a lot harder on Tony.
Yeah, it's great. What people on the net call identity porn, in the sense that because they don't know the secret, it's just adding irony to the story. Yeah. So now Happy
I like the bit that Black Knight attacks him with something that drains his power in an issue where, because Tony was low on power, he nearly died. It really ups the tension.
Yes. Uh-oh. What's gonna happen? I can feel it just starting to drain away my transistor power now. Oh no, there's just one desperate gamble left for me to take. Okay, the kitten has decided that he wants to be a part of this stream.
All right.
We'll see what happens. Okay. So he's plunging downward. So Tony is trying to basically fly in a pattern that will basically throw the discs off him. And then the Black Knight drops Happy, and fortunately Tony is able to catch him.
His plan worked even better than he thought it was going to work. So that's another nice little, like, they're making sure to kind of like underscore neat strategic moments like that in the dialogue. Old comics maybe had a tendency to over-explain things, but by explaining things, they kind of point out neat stuff you might not have noticed in a more TV style writing of comics.
Yeah. So then Tony puts Happy back, and then Happy's like, wait, what about Mr. Stark? Because they're still fiercely loyal to their boss. And Iron Man says, let him take care of himself. He's a big boy now. Iron Man, after me again. Yeah, and then here's the part where he grabs the horse's hooves using the element of surprise. He flipped over the horse, throwing the Black Knight off the horse.
And kind of an intense moment of Tony saying, I can save you, but I kind of I expect you to get rid of your weapon before I save you.
Yeah. But if you drop your weapon, there might be something I can do for you. Yeah. No, it's the source of most of my power. I can't lose it. Okay, then. Happy landings. But eventually, so there's this game of chicken going on, and eventually the Black Knight gives up. All right, here you go. Save me now. And he delivers Black Knight to the cops. And now I got to go back and become Tony Stark again to allay any suspicions that Pepper or Happy might have formed. But
now the twisteroo,
when he gets back to his, but a twisteroo, my heart now needs the extra boost those additional transistors gave it. But if I take my Iron Man armor off, I'm apt to black out, or worse, when the power stops. But I can't keep my armor on all the time, and yet I'm afraid I dare not take it off. The next attack may weaken my heart so much that the blackout will be permanent. I can't take that chance. Does this mean I'm destined to spend the rest of my life in this armor? It's impossible. Insane. And
he kind of put himself into this position just by choosing to suit up the way he did. They actually kind of like have an additional explanation for this in the next issue, where they say, well, the problem is the power-ups are on his belt. He can't take off his belt without taking off his armor. So that's what got him stuck. Right. And he kind of got himself into this fix by trying to charge up as quickly as possible to go fight the villain, right? So I don't know, it's like a human moment for Tony where he's a genius, but he's kind of got himself caught in a stupid trap.
Yeah. Mr. Stark, we thought we heard someone in there. Are you all right? Oh, I've got to think of an excuse. And this is where we get the lame excuse. Mr. Stark isn't here. He left by another secret entrance. Which, again, what I was saying about in these early comics, the lame excuses always made me wonder, how did they not figure it out sooner? They left me in charge. He left me in charge. You? But Mr. Stark was ill. He couldn't have just left town. It was just a dizzy spell. He got over it, and then he went out. Yeah. I don't believe him. I don't think he's telling the truth. And Tony knows that that his lies are completely lame. They're suspicious. They know I'm keeping something from them, but I can never tell them what will happen next when Tony Stark does not return. Yeah, so now he's in this trap, and now because of his lame excuses, Happy and Pepper are suspicious. So what is he going to do in the next dish?
The metaphor of him being the man in the iron mask has become a literal plot point now. Like, he always felt trapped by the iron chest plate. Now he's literally trapped in his entire costume.
Yeah. And so he can't come out and be his regular self. So now everyone is like, oh no, where is Tony Stark? And has Iron Man done something to him? Iron Man wanted for murder because what has happened to Tony Stark? I can never be Anthony Stark again. I can never remove my armor. I must remain Iron Man forever.
And this is Don Heck again, right? As the artist?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me go back.
Also, seems like they have fought Hawkeye before, but it's neat kind of seeing Hawkeye and Black Widow still in their villain phase before they became regular Avengers.
Yeah. Yes, they both of them used to be in Iron Man's Rogue Gallery until they became Avengers. So then we have the opening of Tony brooding over why he can't take. In order to remove the iron suit, I've got to take the extra power pods off my belt, but that will stop the extra flow of power to my heart. Yeah, so this is the explanation you're talking about. Why can't he take his armor off? Because, as Warzor says, he needs those Elon Musk batteries, and he can't remove the armor without removing the batteries. So, yeah, so we have to have the melodramatic moment of I can't do it. If my chest device should stop even for a minute, I'm as good as dead. I haven't the nerve. And then it recaps what happened last issue, that he almost came close to death even before he fought the Black Knight in the last issue. I can't go through that again. And then we have him trashing some random equipment here. What cruel trick of fate is this? I'm one of the strongest, most powerful, most feared humans on the face of the earth. There is nothing I cannot accomplish, nothing I would not dare. And yet, I haven't the courage to remove my iron armor. I don't dare gamble with my damaged arm. I'm a prisoner of Iron Man, of my own creation. Oh no, what am I going to do? Meanwhile, Happy and Pepper are still worried about Tony. And this kind of touches on what a lot of these early comics touch on, which is the love triangle between Happy, Tony, and Pepper. So now we have here Happy wondering if he ever has a chance with Pepper because of how upset Pepper is over Tony being missing, right?
I'm head over heels for the gal who's in love with the guy I give my right arm for.
Yeah. Yes, that gets into sort of the romance comic aspect of this comic. Yeah, there's one issue, and I forget which issue it is, where Stan Lee actually realizes that that Iron Man is kind of half a romance comic and half a superhero comic, and he puts a lampshade on it and has this little caption that says, now, before you guys think you picked up a romance mag by mistake, let's get back to the superhero action. It's like he's completely self-aware that he's slipping back into his Millie the Model phase here, and still no word from him, eh? No, but I'm sure he's all right. How can you say
about
that?
this is they kind of explain why he has to give them a lame excuse, because they know Tony Stark well enough to check out any lie he comes up with. So the last lie he's left up with is, well, he didn't say. It was secret business.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so I can't tell him he's on vacation because they'll know all the places he goes on vacation. Yeah. Stark is too well known, too famous. They could check out any lie I tell in minutes and know that I'm covering up. The vacation angle is out. I've got to say something they can't disprove. He said it was a secret business matter. He wouldn't tell me where he was going. And they still don't really believe that. Happy, what if Iron Man himself has harmed Mr. Stark? How would we ever know? If anyone could do it, you could. No, you're wrong. I swear to you, I've done nothing to harm him. I'm as anxious for him to return as you are. Yeah, well, if you're not doing much to find him, if you ever come out of that iron sardine can, mister, I'll find a way to make you talk.
And I'm so moved by Happy Hogan's bro code on her.
Yeah. Yeah, if only I could tell him that I'm Stark. If I could tell how touched I am by his loyalty. Yeah. One Happy's wonderful bro code, and I can't tell him, oh, you're wonderful. I'm so happy that you feel that way about me. That guy's always bugged me. Why does he keep his identity a secret? What's he really after? You can sort of see this is sort of setting up pretty well actually why Happy is the first one to figure it out, because he's the one who's the most suspicious. Yeah. So because he's just a naturally suspicious character, so he's going to be digging into it more. And why would someone as powerful as Iron Man work for Stark? The whole setup always smelled fishy to me. I never did trust him. So then Tony comes up. He tries to come up with another idea. I'll write a note and sign Stark's name. Perhaps that will make them stop worrying.
There's a neat element where the Avengers will give you time to clear your name, but if there's a cloud of suspicion over you, it's like that could affect the Avengers' reputation. So take some time off and fix this problem, Iron Man.
Yeah, fix this problem, Iron Man. And he gets caught taking money from the safe. He's robbing Stark's safe. Oh, I was a fool not to lock the door. Yeah.
I also like the twist through that they find a legitimate explanation and they don't arrest him for breaking into the safe. Because like the second that happens, you think, oh no, they're going to arrest him for theft, and then no, not quite. It's just like they're increasing the cloud of suspicion without like having it all tip over right away.
Yeah, you can see the safe wasn't forced. Mr. Stark has given me the combination. I have his permission to open it whenever I wish. And it's a good thing I did. I found this note. So then the note gets rushed down to headquarters so that the handwriting analyst can look at it. There are no fingerprints on the note, and the handwriting is Stark's, but seems oddly shaky. If Stark really wrote that note, why aren't his fingerprints on it? Another mistake. I forgot to remove my iron gloves. They're what made my writing seem shaky, too. I'm getting tired of all these questions. Either formally charge me for a crime or I'll put a stop to them my own way. And he has to crash through the window. Yeah, so it's
Am I being detained?
It's really good. Yeah, am I being detained? Yeah, essentially. Yeah, either formally arrest me or I'm leaving. But it's a really good tense plot that we're setting up here as the suspicion just grows and grows and grows over what's happened to Tony Stark, and the fact that he's trying all these things to kind of push the suspicion off him, and nothing's working because there's there'll be details that he forgets, though he tries to think his way out of it every time there's another detail he forgets. It's really good. I really enjoy it. Hold it, man. Small arms fire can't affect his armor. Besides, he's still got no definite proof that he's done anything wrong. So these are ethical cops. And we can't arrest a man for a crime until we're sure a crime has been committed. What do I do now? I'll remain under suspicion until Stark appears, and he can't appear as long as I dare not remove my armor. So that he has to go off and kind of brood alone. What does a mighty Avenger do in face of a hopeless problem? The same as anyone else. He seeks solitude, a quiet place to think his troubled thoughts. And then, I just remembered, a meeting of the Avengers is scheduled for tonight. I'll have to contact them. So this gets to the Avengers element, where permission requested to be absent. Permission granted. We have heard of the disappearance of Anthony Stark. There is but one question I have to ask. Have you betrayed him? On my honor as Avenger, I have not betrayed Tony Stark. So be it. We expect you to lift the cloud of suspicion as soon as possible. Yeah, so the Avengers give people a chance to work things out before they bring down the hammer. But what is Tony to do? Because he still can't bring Tony Stark back. Meanwhile, we have the Black Widow and Hawkeye back when they were still villains. They enter the scene. And they hear about Anthony Stark's disappearance on the news and decide that they're going to take advantage of that. With Iron Man gone, this is your chance to raid Stark's factory again and steal the plans for his newest weapons. I have agreed to be your ally, my lovely Black Widow, but my heart rebels at the thought of treason. It will not be treason, my bold hero. I only serve the cause of international police. He believes any lie I tell him.
New World Order.
Well. New World Order. Yeah. New World Order. So that Hawkeye goes and he's going to raid the factory here. Originally, I planned to use my talents to serve mankind. If only I hadn't met the Black Widow. And yet, without her, life would be meaningless to me. So he's doing all of this for love. He's a simp. Yes, that's exactly what he is. He's a simp.
There's a nice element of making both of them sympathetic villains, though, before their heel face turn.
Yeah. And then we have Hawkeye goes in and manages to grab Pepper.
It's also neat that Hawkeye kind of knows he cannot take Iron Man in just a straight hand-to-hand fight, so he's got to use some devious tricks to get away.
Yeah, yeah. I tried to tell you, Mr. Stark keeps all his secret formula in his head. He doesn't dare trust them to safes. Very well, then. My next problem is escape. Use that communicator. Order them to place a speedy car at my disposal. No, I won't. I won't. I won't help a menace like you escape.
Ever notice how Happy Hogan always looks like a sad sack? Like, I think that was perfect.
Yeah. And then the Avengers contact Tony and say, Giant Man calling. Just heard a bulletin. Hawkeye is trapped in Stark's factory, holding Pepper hostage. Should Avengers take over? No, he may panic. He may injure her. I'll do it alone, my way. Yeah. So it's like, now that the Avengers exist, we have to explain why Tony would have to do this by himself. Even though I'm under suspicion, I can't stand idly by while Pepper is in danger. Yes. And then we have switching a scene, how to switch a scene in the retro comics way. And across the sprawling city, another of our faithful cast prepares to act. Hawkeye is in trouble. Perhaps Black Widow can help him. Forgive us for switching scenes so suddenly, but our action now occurs simultaneously in two separate areas because we have to explain how scene changes work.
Right.
Yeah.
This was definitely before the era of the golden age of television, where we've gotten used to jarring TV cuts, so it's easy to make fun of this. But I can actually kind of see how that would be a little weird to someone from an older era.
Right. And you know, it's something that now that I am starting to think about writing comics, I've been thinking about how do I do scene changes in ways that people can understand. Like, how do you do those transitions? So, I've kind of settled on the just a caption that says later, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good enough. We'll have to see how it works out when I start actually showing people pages of what I'm writing here. But so how do you do scene changes? I'm in luck. He's still here. Iron Man, I thought you were under suspicion and hiding somewhere. At that moment, as the sultry Natasha heads for a car, we have her, Sergei. Sergei Amkov, head of the Iron Curtain spy system in North America. At your service, my dear. I have orders to bring you back with me now for interrogation. So she gets captured before she can help Hawkeye, right? And then and then we get the fight between Hawkeye and Iron Man. The first thing I must do is get Pepper out of danger in a way he least suspects. So he basically puts a steel wall between her and Hawkeye. Yeah, so Hawkeye runs off because, as you say, he knows that he can't really take Iron Man on in a direct hand-to-hand. He has to be sneakier. Yeah.
I also love the red arrows. That's another mark of the age.
Yeah, mark of the age. Which way do I read? Oh, thank you for telling me which way to read. And then we have he's firing a power blast arrow at the link chains holding our new Uranus 2 rocket. There, that'll keep him busy for a while. So Tony has to gently settle this very expensive rocket to Earth here. So then he throws another arrow at him. So Hawkeye's the tactics here are well thought out because they know that that Hawkeye has a different power set than Iron Man. It's not going to lend itself to a direct conflict. So we have to do tricks and we have to do sneakery, you know.
And the editorial comments actually, they aren't redundant. People accuse old comics of being redundant in the wording, but the wording is actually spelling out things that are going on between the panels, right? Like, so we don't see Iron Man grab the cord and then pull the cord and yank Hawkeye around. The narrator explains what happens between Hawkeye firing arrow and Hawkeye flying in the air. So it's actually pretty useful to fill in the gaps.
And then we have here Hawkeye realizing that Hawkeye demonstrating that he understands that Tony has that Tony's power has limits, that eventually he's going to run out of power. And he says, I have no intention of giving you enough time to recharge them. So what Hawkeye is trying to do is kind of fight a war of attrition until Tony's out of power, basically. Yeah. So, it's really good. It's a really good thought out fight because it gives both the heroes their due in terms of what they will be able to bring to a fight, right?
Yeah.
And wait, that low flying jet. My suction tipped arrow, so he escapes by hooking onto a jet. And it turns out to be Natasha's plane where she is being brought back beyond the Iron Curtain. Get the new proton gun, the anti-armor gun, which I myself invented. How ironic.
Stop. So once again, there's this cloud of suspicion, but they don't really have a crime they can pin on him yet.
Yeah, but what about the boss's disappearance? We can't be positive that Iron Man's responsible, and besides, he did save my life. Thank you, Pepper. No, don't thank me. I only did it for Mr. Stark. If you are innocent, you may still be the only one who can save him if he's in trouble. And then he just suddenly flies. Suddenly, I've got to leave. I can't bear to look at her, to be near her, to see the anguish in her eyes and not be able to help. So he gets emotional and flies away, basically. Simp.
Oh, that was in reference to Hawkeye and
Hawkeye,
Natasha.
Probably, yeah. Hawkeye is the ultimate simp when it comes to Natasha, at least in these early comics. I sure hope you did the right thing, Pepper. So do I, Happy. But no matter how the evidence points against him, there's something about Iron Man, something that makes me want to trust him, something I can't explain. And then
we still haven't resolved this subplot. Like they wanted to carry this out a little bit.
Yeah, they wanted to carry this out over several issues, and they wanted to be able to end in classic Tales of Suspense fashion with And so we take our leave of the Golden Avenger as he labors alone in his lab, desperately trying to find a way to safely remove the armor which makes him one of the most powerful of humans and one of the most tragic. You have to have the obligatory caption at the end about how tragic Tony is, even though he is one of the most powerful superheroes in the world. So, classic Marvel.
All that you always
right,
feel bad to the character.
Yeah. And yeah, it's one of the things I think that's why I've always kind of preferred Marvel comics, at least the old comics. I can't really recommend most of the new comics, but the old comics had that that element of, you know, humanity in each of the characters that I always enjoyed. The DC characters to me, oftentimes they seem a little bit distant from humanity, but it could be that I'm just not reading the right books from DC. I'm not sure, but
I always liked the old like Batman and Robin going on a picnic years. There's just something endearing about that.
maybe those are the issues I need to read then. I like, but the DC comics I've read have been like the ones that are generally recommended in like, these are the DC comics you must read lists. So, you know, those are the ones I have read.
Yeah.
Maybe what I need to do is I need to like search out the Batman and Robin go on a picnic stuff.
Yeah.
Or
do best of books. Like I don't think I would want to sit down and read like 60 years of Superman, but I would definitely read like the top 100 Superman stories of all time. Whereas with Marvel, kind of like right away, it was that soap opera, and they've got all these problems in their life, and you want to see them fix the problems in their life angle.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that was Marvel's contribution to comics history. Read Legions of Superheroes from the 70s and 80s, says Warzard. Oh, and Warzard says, do they randomly make the word balloons for Iron Man square, or is there a date where it starts? Huh. I noticed that a little bit in the new comic where it was red and yellow.
Yeah. I know in the old comics, so Silver and Bronze Age, I think the balloons were just random shapes. But starting in the late 90s, when you get to volume 3 for Iron Man and for the Avengers, they started doing when he was in his armor, it was like a red and gold bordered thing that looked kind of not square, but kind of just mechanical looking, like it was a robot voice, kind of. So they and to be honest, I kind of like that they did that in the late 90s Avengers, because then I could always tell when it was Tony speaking, because he had a very unique bubble, like and actually Thor did too in the same books. They used a completely different font for Thor to kind of give him the sort of, you know, now it's the Asgardian speaking. He's speaking in a different font, like, you know. Legion of Superheroes, Jim Shooter years, and 80s Giffen. Yeah. Legion of Supers. All right, so maybe I will give those a try. All right, any other final thoughts or comments before we end the stream for tonight?
The old Iron Man comics are still winning the fight. I'll keep giving Cantwell a shot to see if he. It's a thing where if he, I don't know, he doesn't even need to nail the landing on this. Like almost like if you can just like wrap this up and start. I don't know. Like he clearly knows a lot about the characters, so a little less musing, a little bit more emphasis on kind of like the cool. I don't know, pushing that aspect of Tony where he has this Messiah complex and maybe this sort of struggle with whether he's connecting with people. Focused on that and I don't know. I'm willing to see. It's possible that this will develop into a good comic, but it's not doing it for me right now.
Yeah, it's not quite there yet. I think the mistake that he has made is he pitched this new series was originally pitched as Tony getting back to basics. With a simpler armor that's not quite so OP and so on. But the mistake he made was he immediately went to Korvac as a supervillain, and now we're going to space. Which, if you want to get Tony back to basics, as you can see from these old comics, we're not going to space. we're dealing with definitely earthbound threats. And the other thing that these old comics do is they put in drama that really isn't dependent on villains at all. It's just personal drama from the character. And you also have the fact that he has these friends who are super loyal to him, which sometimes causes ironic problems in his life as Iron Man. And like him having to fly over to stop a tower from falling down on his workers because he cares about his workers, right?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get back to basics, I tweeted a while back a capture from a comic from the 70s in which Tony is off to go to some meeting or something like that, and he's flying over this road on a rainy night, and he happens to see that somebody's car is broken down. So he stops and rescues these people whose car is broken down as Iron Man. And then that's not the only time he does something simple like that. If you want to go, so what I tweeted was, if you want to go back to basics, how about more of this? How about more of Iron Man rescuing the cat out of the tree, or Iron Man just fighting gangsters, like in these
friendly
early
neighborhood
comics.
Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah. But so I think that's really where it's getting off track. Is he's saying that it's about going back to basics, but we're already off Earth, and we are as far away from his basics as we can possibly be. Except, we do have the element now that he's trapped in his armor because of the armor is basically acting as a sea collar right now and holding his broken neck in place.
Yeah,
but we're not taking advantage of that in the same way that these old comics did. Every time something about the armor trapped him in some way, we're not leaning into the potential drama of that situation the way that we should.
Okay, so he's what Cantwell is picking up on is he's picking up on aspects of what makes the old comics works. He's picking up on like the history, and like Iron Man being trapped in his suit is a great angle.
Yeah.
But we haven't ever seen like Tony like you could take those two lines out and it wouldn't and people wouldn't notice, right? We need to have the element of Tony trapped in his suit as a cripple basically made prominent enough so that we remember that actually happened without just a quick little reminder. Like if your neck is broken and the point is he's fighting even though he's in traction, like he should think, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this because my neck is broken, or I can barely turn and look because my neck is broken. Things like that. Yeah.
They need to get Bob Layton. They absolutely do need to get Bob Layton to edit the Iron Man books. I agree with that 100%. One of the things I've been thinking, they're about to come out with a Fantastic Four life story that is kind of along the same vein as Spider-Man life story, where it's, the canon rewritten as if they actually do age through real history sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I believe the whole life story concept was pitched by Chip Zdarsky for potentially being used for all the characters. So, when they get to, so I've been thinking when they get to Iron Man, they should. I'm pretty sure Mussolini's still alive, and Leighton is still alive. Bring them back and have them, maybe if not writing the whole thing, at least being the editors to make sure that it really captures that old spirit. Oh yeah, so bringing Bob Layton back to be the Iron Man editor, absolutely 100%. I agree with that. But yeah, so as you were saying, like, Cantwell is picking up on some of the things that make the old Iron Man comics attractive to those of us who like Iron Man, but he hasn't yet figured out how to deploy them in a way that is emotionally resonant. So you had the scene in Iron Man #7 where Patsy and Tony want to kiss, but they can't because he can't remove his helmet, right? But like all I felt was, okay. I didn't really feel any emotional impact, and that's probably because I don't really feel like this is a good relationship that we have built up here, since the first couple of issues were basically Patsy nagging Tony about how terrible and privileged he was. Like, how can I possibly feel anything for this new couple that we have created when there's been no demonstration that they actually are a good match, and that Patsy actually does legitimately care for Tony as he is, instead of thinking of him as a project or something that she can fix.
She's been part of his story for long enough that it's not just like, oh, she's the romantic interest for the month, right? And maybe that's what Cantwell wants to do. Maybe he does want to commit to having her be a consistent character. It's just I'm starting to not trust romance in comics, because when a romance does come to fruition and it ends in marriage, then they could always just like end it by resetting the universe at some point, right? But yeah, I'm totally for a romance developing between the two, so long as like actually have the romance develop between the two, right? And I'm waiting. I've been burned enough that I'm waiting for it to actually build.
Yeah, and it has to, and in order for me to really get sold on it, we have to have Patsy show some appreciation for Tony, again, as he really is, and not as something that she can fix into something better. Warzone says Spider-Man life story was okay, could have been better. I think, like, I liked it, but I think the problem is it was only limited to 6 issues, so it was hard to get real deep into this concept of Spider-Man actually aging through real life history, because you were only getting like snapshots or flashes of what that life was like. So I think that was the one weakness of the idea. It just didn't. It was just a mini series, so there just wasn't enough time to really flesh it out. And that might end up being the downfall of the Fantastic Four series when they get that one going too. Is they may just not have enough time to really take advantage of the concept.
So are we expecting new Iron Man issue 8 this month?
Yes, we are. That is coming out on the 14th, I believe.
Cool beans.
Warzord said, "This is feminist romance, though."
There's a bit of that.
Yeah, it is. I wish it were not, though, because then I would actually be able to get on board for it. Yeah. So new Iron Man is going to come out again on the 14th this month, and then it looks like we're taking a break in May because of the whole Heroes Reborn thing. Something, yeah, the Heroes Reborn event, which is one of those why event. Why are we doing this? I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. And then in June, we're supposed to have 2, Iron Man 9 and then the annual are both coming out in June. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but it is what it is. Okay, any other final thoughts before we sign off?
I've really been enjoying Tales of Suspense. So I guess when did Iron Man get his own comic, and when did Tales of Suspense stop being his main title?
It ends on Tales of Suspense 99, and then
Okay.
what happens is, and then what happens is Tales of Suspense 100 eventually basically becomes Captain America 100. Like they stop. Tales of Suspense stops entirely. It just becomes Captain America 100, and at the same time, Tony gets his own magazine, and it's Iron Man #1. Yeah.
So there's some weird shenanigans going on where
there's
is it Tales of Suspense or is it Captain America? Yeah.
Well, when they added Captain America to Tales of Suspense, I think Captain America was meant to be the A character and Tony the B character. And most of the time that's kind of how it worked out. But so eventually Tales of Suspense, they decide, okay, this is clearly Captain America's mag, so we're just going to call it Captain America, and now we're going to give Tony his own his own book. So so that happens at 99. There's actually like a weird little blip where there's like a single one shot of Iron Man and the Submariner that kind of falls between Tales of Suspense 99 and Iron Man 1. Which is kind of interesting.
Submariner.
Yeah.
It's one of the problems of not having a TV show where they say the names out loud. It's this because I knew what a submarine was, so he's got to be the Submariner, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so I'll think about the next time we have one of these Iron Man streams. I'll think about what issue of Tales of Suspense we should read next. Actually, we should probably continue because we're kind of in the middle of a subplot here.
Yeah.
So we should continue with 61.
It's so exciting.
What happened? Does he ever get out of his armor? Well, obviously he does, but how does he do it?
I want to know how.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll probably just continue where we left off.
Neato.
All right, so put some respect on Namor's name. Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, it wasn't a respect issue. It was a not knowing how to read issue.
True enough. I actually do respect Namor. Namor is interesting because, like he kind of occupies that middle space between villain and hero. Because he has his heroic aspects. He's, I think what I find very interesting about him is that he's basically, the Atlantean patriot. He's a nationalist. He's about protecting his people, and sometimes that puts him, on the side of the heroes, and sometimes that puts him on the side of the villains, depending on what the story is or what's going on. But I've always been fascinated by.
It's neat that he's an old character, but he's never been like a really big character. He's always just kind of like in the background doing his thing. Sometimes he shows up, or is involved in something. I'm sure he's had his own comic. It's never felt like he's been like the big flagship type of guy, but he is a big important part of the universe, nevertheless.
Yeah. And I was saying that, I've always been fascinated by characters that have that sort of nationalist patriotic aspect to them, where because it's easy to sort of understand and track their motivations. Dr. Doom kind of falls into that bucket too. Like he will do what he will do for Latveria. Yeah. So I think that's kind of why I think Dr. Doom is interesting as a character as well. The Patriots, sometimes they're on the side of right, sometimes they're on the side of wrong. It all depends on how the story leads them, Yeah.
Oh, Warzone had a comment. He was in supervillain team up a lot, Namor. Okay.
Yeah, Namor, yeah. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Like he's on that boundary where sometimes he's the heroic character and sometimes he's the villainous character, depending on the situation. So that makes him rather interesting. I'm thinking about like Hickman Vengers, for example. They get to the point where in order to stop one incursion, they have to one planetary incursion, they have to basically kill off an alternate Earth that has like 6 billion living people on it, right? And no one else in the group can bring themselves to do it. But Namor's like, you know, my goal is to protect my people, and I will do that by any means necessary. Let me hit the button. You know, that's the kind of character he is. So, very, very interesting character. I do respect Namor. He's interesting.
All right, so Tales of Suspense.
Anyway, so
61
Tales
and
of
New
61.
Iron Man 8. Did you want to do another Tales of Suspense or mix something else into the mix?
Let me think. I might think about putting something else in the mix maybe. When I read Iron Man 8, something might occur to me. Just like when we did Iron Man 6, I picked particular Tales of Suspense issues because they demonstrated things I wanted to say. So, but 61 for sure, because we want to finish up that story we're in the middle of.
All righty. Yeah. Well, it's been fun. More Iron Man adventures coming your way soon, gang.
Yep. Yay. Imperious Rex. Yes. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you Warzord for actually showing up live. And for those listeners who will be listening in later, thank you again for listening. And we will have more streams of this nature in the near future.
Excelsior.
Have a good evening. Excelsior, true believers, and I hope you all have happy Easter if you celebrate it.